I was going to say that you couldn't see them and they look lovely, but now you can see them. If everybody wants to come down, anybody wants to come down and come closer, you're welcome to do that as well, too. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hola.
Once again, Thora Birch. Mena Suvari. I really want to thank both of you for coming out. American Beauty, we were just having this conversation. American Beauty is just a beautiful film. It's an amazing film, but it's one you can only see every few years. You can't really ever say it's like your favorite film, because if you watch it all the time, you're not healthy.
Get lost in a vortex.
When was the last time you guys saw it?
I have maybe, I spend a good deal of time trying to avoid it just because you have to be in the right zone, at least for me anyway, to really go there all the way. But catching the last 25 minutes of it was really something, especially in this venue, because the full sound and I remember the first time I saw it, it had such an impact on me. I was like shaking and trembling and absolutely, completely shattered, and it wasn't even a screen nearly as large as this one. So to, catch the last little bit of it, it brings back like so many memories. Not so much of being on the set, but just that initial impact of having seen the film for the first time. It's just one of those movies, like you said, where you can only watch it every so many years. It's not something like if it's on TV, like, oh, I'll catch the last hour of that. That's fine, It's not like Casino, where you're like, oh, it's Casino? Okay, the world stops. We're watching it. It's not like that, but, it's
Mine is
still
Shawshank
really good.
Redemption.
Right.
I think, well, I had seen the film when it came out, and then, oh, sorry. And then when we did our round of premieres, I've probably seen the film like over a dozen times. And, I have to say, coming in and seeing again like the last half an hour of it, it was, I'm really glad that I did, because especially listening to the narrative at the end, I feel like I finally understand what he was talking about. And I never got any of that. When I worked on this film, I was 19, and I had done one other film before it, and I had really no clue of, the impact of really what we were making and what we were doing, and, just seeing it now, I have a completely different perspective.
Well, the film is about the rebirth of his character. I mean, at the end of the day, everything really is about where he has gone, his imprisonment, and then his rebirth, and the realization that beauty is everywhere in his rebirth. When he puts his when he wraps you up, when he realizes that he's not going to do anything with you, and you're now his daughter, you're now somebody that he's going to protect. He looks at the family, he remembers all of those things. I mean, that's really what, for me and for so many different people who I know, I've read critic after critic about this, that's what the film is about. And it's interesting, though, that it's getting you just now. When you
I think because I'm older.
Right, but when you were doing it, what was your thought process on the, no, you're 23, always. When you were doing it, what was your thought process on the character?
Oh, I mean, just my approach, everything was just so green. I mean, it was just a very simple, organic process. And, that's another thing for me watching it, is just kind of seeing my approach to things then, and the way that I approached life, and just how, innocent it was. And, now being in the business for so much longer, and I'm able to kind of compare how I am now compared to how I was then. And, so I never studied with anybody in particular. I didn't, work under any particular method. I didn't know any of that. I was just kind of going off of, my own life experience that I had at that point. I remember my first day on this project was me crying on the stairs. That was my first scene, first day at work, and I really just drudged up a lot of feelings that I had to use in that moment. I didn't really know how to.
No, I kind of remember you developing a style while we were working on it, because I remember in rehearsals there were certain things that you would say I remember you telling yourself, oh, I have to remember back to being like a virgin, or I have to remember back to being that age.
I was a virgin.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't even know what I'm saying right now, but but I remember you like actually like really making a strong effort, and I was
Yeah, it's
very
funny
impressed by
because-
that, because everyone I felt like had that sense that they had to like step up or.
Well, you know, it's interesting because working on this film, that time in my life was actually really emotionally difficult for me. And, you know, so I think there was a lot of hardships that I was experiencing in my personal life at the time. And so I think you know, it is kind of like what you said, I had to kind of try and, you know, remind myself of.
Or like reboot to
when
like a
things were
different
easier
kind
and
of.
simpler
Right.
and, you know, not as hard.
When you initially auditioned, how did you get the audition? How did you get the part? And what was it like working with Sam during rehearsals?
Well, I remember it was a very long process. I went in and I've been told that I was the first person to have any kind of meeting at all. I was like the first one that they saw during the casting process, and it was just a meeting. And I thought that that was pretty strange because, you know, at that time I was very used to, especially for a film like this where everyone already loved the script, I figured that I wouldn't even meet the director or anything like that. And I came in and Alan Ball was there, and Bruce and Dan and Sam and Leslie Feldman, the main casting at DreamWorks then. And it was very casual, and I thought, wow, this is surprisingly easy. And then I had to come back, and, you know, 4 months later I had to come back again, and then come back again. And I guess they just thought that it would absolutely be impossible that I would be right for it, because they had to see everyone else in the world, the part, just to make sure. And so that was kind of a gut-wrenching thing. But after that, just having gotten the part, I was so thrilled, because my love was the script. I fell immediately in love with the script. For me, at that time, you know, I was 16, and it was very unique. I had never encountered any kind of script like it at all. And I wasn't like a big fan of all those character-driven 70s films that this kind of has a little bit of a reminiscent feeling of. And just thought, wow, this is fabulous. And I immediately knew that Jane would be the only part that I would want to play. So I felt just really blessed to get the role.
Yeah, and I think that I responded more to the character of Angela when I read the script, but again, I was so young and so green, and I remember deciding that I was going to wear my knee-high leather boots into the audition, that would have like some prominent effect or something. And I remember going in, and while I was waiting, Wes was in the casting office as well, and you know, we just kind of said, oh, hi, you know, introduced ourselves to one another, and I think I just kind of did my thing in the room, and then when I left, I just kind of joked to him. I said, oh, see you on set. And then I found myself back with Wes and Thora, and we were rehearsing a lot of the scenes, especially like the scenes in the car. I think we rehearsed one that they cut it out.
There was some.
That's in the
No,
car.
that's in the car. No, that's in there.
There was like a few things that we did.
Some of it.
We did a few hours in there, rehearsing it
whole
all. And I mean,
rehearsal.
again, that was very new to me. I'd never worked with anyone like that. I didn't really have any type of theater experience or theater training, and so being able to spend time to really, you know, work these scenes and establish, you know, what we were going to do on the day and how that would make it a lot easier. I mean, it definitely gave me, you know, it kind of established like a routine for me that I'd like to use more often, and you know, it's nice to have that.
The entire rehearsal process was really unique, even for me as well, because never before had we spent like 2 weeks where the entire bulk of the cast spent 1 week just around a table, just going through scene after scene after scene, and having so many, you know, personal things about the character revealed to the entire cast. And I felt like that first week, it really kind of built like this sense of community amongst all of us, even though, you know, we were never really around when Chris Cooper was on set, or not even too much when Kevin and Annette were, but it just like, it created the sense of being that you were a part of a unit. And I think everyone connected to the material even more because of that. And then on the second week, it became very much this theater thing where, you know, there was tape on the floor and mini props were around, and, you know, there were chairs, and you started to like actually act out the scene. And I had never, ever encountered an experience like that. So I really felt that those 2 weeks really, really helped, because, you know, when we would get on the set for each day, even though, you know, the setups would be too long, or even the rehearsal on the day would be a little bit, you know, redundant. It was only redundant because we had already done all that work previously, and I really felt that it helped.
When the end scene, of course, to me is such an amazing scene. When you watch your reaction with Wes's reaction, what do you think about now? I know that's like a depressing scene, but what do you think about now in terms of how you did that scene, and what do you think of the movie?
Well, I'm completely in love with the film. So much that I respect it to the point where I don't watch it that often. But I would have to say that the one thing that pops up to me is, and this always kind of bothered me a little bit, was that to the audience, it's so clear how Lester in some way wraps up his relationship with Jane, because you see him have this like sense of closure about their friction, you know, and he's just actually happy for her. And the only thing that ever really bothered me is that you never see Jane have any kind of closure at all, and even in her reaction to realizing that, you know, he's been shot in his kitchen, is just, to me as an audience member, it's a little bit of a letdown, like, well, what does that mean, you know? But I understand it from the overall technical point of view, and maybe from the directors and editors' point of view, I can understand it. But for me, it's like, wait a minute, no, Janie has to have some kind of more, you know, a little bit more of a reaction. And I remember having that conversation on the set too. Like, really, you just want me to say, oh my God, in silent shock? That's it? But it's fine, you know. It's I don't fight.
What do you take as actors from rewatching that again? What do you see from there? And you're saying you were very green now, as opposed to now. What do you take as you watch it, and what do you see within yourselves in terms of what you've used as time has gone on? What you learned there on the set, the tutor you had with Sam, with anybody else?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't think I've ever found an experience the same, you know, since then. You know, it really taught me a lot about how to work, and, you know, ethic, and you know, I had a wonderful experience with Kevin on this film. I mean, you know, he really, at times, took me under his wing, and really counseled and consoled me, especially through, you know, the scenes at the end of the film. And you know, it was an amazing experience, I think. You know, but it's for me, when I watch the film, there's something about the innocence for me, you know, that where I was at that point in my life, that, you know, I enjoyed having that approach to my work, instead of, I think for me now, just being in the business longer, there's so much more that gets like stuck in your head, you know, and it's always like you're trying to like get it all out to be able to have that same approach. So there's something weird like that, you know, has kind of happened for me.
So it's really the opposite. Like with directors, they're learning and they're seeing, okay, I can use this camera angle, I can do these camera angles, and I can use those in the future. Whereas when you're an actor, you're saying that you really need to forget what you've done here in order to be able to do something new there.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, for me, when I worked on this film, and then when it came out, I mean, you know, I had worked on American Pie as well, and I thought every movie made $100 million, you know? Like, I just had no concept. And then it's like, you're going here, and you're going there, and then, you know, it's, like you said, you read all these critic reviews,